right. So the red light's on. This is go time. This is when everybody gets really nervous. Are you nervous at all?
No, I'm good, man.
All right. Well, let's start off quickly. Since I had to make some adjustments. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had some sourdough bagels with one bagel, chive and onion cream cheese.
Nice. And I'm assuming any coffee in there or anything like that?
Yeah, I washed it down with a pour over. A nice bold cup of some Trailhead Guatemalan is what I'm brewing right now. So local roaster here in Portland that I've loved for the last few years. So they always keep me right.
Keep you right, keep you upright, keep you going, get that energy. Well, very cool. Well, instead of talking about breakfast, why don't we actually flip over to why we're doing an interview here? Why don't you tell my listeners, one, who you are and what you're currently raising money for over on Kickstarter?
Yeah, so my name's Etai Rahmil. I am a glass artist of over 12 years. It's been my full-time job and my passion ever since I found the craft while I was in college. I didn't finish college, but I found glass, which really put me on the trajectory that I felt was right for me. And yeah, I've been doing that for 12 years. I make, high-end sculptures that has been supporting me. A couple of years ago, we were in the glass shop. Coffee's a big part of my day. It's a big part of my shopmate's day. And we were just kicking around the idea of, man, like, what if we could make coffee with only glass? It's what we use. It's what we work with every day. We looked around. We couldn't really find anything that people were making that was kind of what we thought could be. We started tinkering around in the shop, hand blowing prototypes, figuring out what would work, what wouldn't work. And 6 months later, we came up with what is now Pour Over, which is an all glass pour over coffee maker with a built-in filter. No paper filters required at all for brewing. You only need coffee and hot water.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what we're raising money for on Kickstarter right now. It's been a 2-year mission to get this up and running and to, get everything set that we felt ready to launch. And here we are 2 weeks into the campaign.
That's great. That's awesome. So let's go back a little bit. How do you just get into glass making? Like, I don't know if that's not, I like to think I do a lot of stuff, but glass making hasn't come my way. So how do you get into that randomly?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Oregon in Eugene, which has like a very deep hippie artisan culture to it. I didn't actually know that was kind of Eugene's, MO before I got there. After I got there, I got a job at a local head shop and kind of got thrown into the world of glass blowing. I started meeting a lot of glass artists. And actually the University of Oregon has a craft center. They teach ceramics, glass blowing, metalwork, woodwork. And I decided to take a quick beginner class, and I immediately was drawn to it.
Wow.
I had never been creative in my life. I was never making art as a kid. I didn't take ceramic class in high school. But as soon as I, sat down at the torch and started making something, I immediately connected to it.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And so that kind of was all I could see at that moment. Kind of went by the wayside, and I really just dug into the idea that I could be a glass blower for a living.
That's interesting. I don't know any glass blowers either. So what is the mental makeup of a glass blower? Is it extra patience? Is it such fine detail? Is it, hey, just let it go wherever it goes? What's the mind makeup of a glass blower?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. When I was first taking those first classes, my mother came and sat in on one, and she was like, "How are you concentrating so well on this glass piece? I've never seen you concentrate this much on anything." And so I think being able to find a medium that just kind of zoned in on what my mind does well was glass for me, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, we are very detail oriented. I do a type of glass called flame working, which is a little bit different than, what most people see or think of when they hear glass blowing. A lot of people think of like the old Italian way of the big metal rods, going into the vats of molten glass. Yeah. And, that's a little bit different than what I do. I have a torch that I manipulate rods and tubes on. So, I'm basically standing there in one place the whole time. And yeah, it is a very detail-oriented way of glass making. We can, take our time going in and out of the kiln. We can do, super small details down to the millimeter. And, you definitely have to have some type of patience for what you choose to do. And, some people have different kinds of patiences. Some people will make a marble that takes them 2 days to make. I don't have patience for that, but I have patience to work on a big piece for a month.
Right.
So, I'll kind of find our own ways of working with the medium and really what connects to us.
So you might have just mentioned it, but like, are most of your things bigger sculptures then, it sounds like? Is that mostly what you work on?
Yeah, I do a little bit of both, but I think what I'm mostly known for are my like life-size musical instruments that I make out of glass. I've made, like 10 different kinds of instruments: trumpets, flutes, saxophones, trombones. So I've kind of, focused on the fun instrument side of making representations of them out of glass. I also make masks and replicas of antiques. So yeah, I like to take my time and make, larger scale projects.
That's interesting. And what kind of like, I guess in that space right here, what is the typical clientele for the trombone glass piece, right? Like what does your world look like? Because I'm interested as to how it flips into, because now you're making almost like an e-commerce type product, right? Like feels like a pretty big pivot to like a one-off trombone thing, right?
Totally. So, over the past years, I've developed a pretty, nice following of collectors and people that are interested in glass and art in general. And the clientele kind of varies. Some younger people that just like to collect things. I sell to, older CEO types that want a piece of their piano. It's kind of all over the board. It's really fun to see like how different people like to interact with art and what they're willing to, spend their hard-earned money on and what makes them happy. Yeah. And it really varies, man. It's really fun working with all types of different people, from, like I said, like, 20-year-old kids to, 60-year-old CEOs. So yeah, it's kind of all over the board.
That's cool. Well, let's go now. Let's move over to this like 2 years ago, right? So you're standing there with your skill sets and you drink coffee, right? Or whatever. So like, how do you start to say, I think I could make a filter, and like, that feels like a pretty big step there too, to go, I think I can do this.
Totally. And, like you were saying before, like glass is kind of an unknown to you and actually to most people, right? We know how to saw pieces of wood in half, that's kind of something that we just know by seeing it all the time and whatnot, but glass is definitely like a foreign material to people. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the skills that, I've developed making what I make, excuse me, really like made it not easy, but I had a vision into how things could be translated into a coffee filter.
Sure.
And actually, I have a lot of ideas. This is the one that that stuck and that I really felt was in my wheelhouse. I didn't want to be in some of the other businesses that, came up in my mind, but, a glass coffee maker that I could prototype myself, take the time with my hands. I don't have to rely on a third party, design agency or anything like that. This was my wheelhouse. Yeah. And so, we just, started exploring different shapes, different kinds of filters. And again, like 6 months after, taking a couple days a week out of, our busy schedule of making pieces for our clients, we came up with something that, works really, really well and looks as nice as it works, I think.
Well, it's interesting. What in that time period, that 6 month time period and stuff, what are you looking for in terms of, I guess, because it's moving, the glass is moving from an artistic scenario, right? Like it's going to sit on my piano, whatever, to it needs to actually function and do something, right? Like, so like, what are you trying to hit in terms of the functionality of like, oh, no, you're not going to lose anything by having this. It's going to be better. It's going to be worse. It's going to be the same, whatever it is. What are you trying to get to in that prototyping phase?
Yeah. So, most of my work, I don't know if I mentioned this, they are functional pipes. So the idea of something, having form and function has been a driving factor in basically everything I make for the past 10 years.
Interesting.
So I know that balance well. I know when it, slips on one side to the other. Okay, am I making something that's really just going to look amazing and work still? Am I going to make something that works amazingly but doesn't look as nice? Or is it going to be in the middle? And yeah, it is a little bit different designing something like this where I'm not using a lot of colors. I'm not, remaking an imaginative, representation of an instrument or whatnot. And so I really knew that I needed to have something, right down the middle. It had to work really well and look really nice in anybody's kitchen, not just the one person that buys the commission from me.
Right.
And so that was definitely a different path that I was going down. But I felt it really natural, and designing is in my mind and my blood all the time. And that was kind of the driving factor was, okay, this needs to look amazing on anybody's kitchen counter. It needs to fit anywhere, which is why, our footprint is smaller than most of the coffee makers out there. And it has to work really well. And that's definitely like the path that we needed to go on, the form versus function, and making sure that, met each other's standards.
Yeah, I think, from what it looks like on all the GIFs, the video, everything I've seen, you definitely hit that chord the correct way. Actually, no pun intended. I don't know why we're talking so much musical instruments, but no pun intended. But you really did strike it the right way there. So, so over that 2-year period, what's the thing that's keeping you up at night? What's the thing that's like, oh my gosh, we got to make sure we get this right or that right?
Yeah, I didn't want to go on a Kickstarter to start a brand, which, sounds opposite, but I wanted to start a brand and bring our product to Kickstarter. So we worked really hard, developing our identity, getting our manufacturing in order, getting our content ready, and everything that you would do if you were not launching on Kickstarter before launching on Kickstarter. I have a reputation as an artist. I am going to deliver on this. We are going to deliver on this like we say we are, and doing everything we could beforehand was our goal. As far as what kept me up at night, I that's a good question. Everything and nothing. It was very exciting, and it was a lot of work. I was working, in the studio all day, and then coming home and plugging away on this. But I think just, getting everything ready and meeting at the right date and converging at the time where we were ready to launch was, a lot of work, super satisfying. And it was a really great experience, being able to work with the team kind of for the first time as well. I've been doing glass art alone. I'm the maker, the seller, the marketer, the website dude, the customer service dude. And I built a really good team around me. And that's been awesome.
Yeah. So now do you have experience making something though with glass that needs to be manufactured at scale? Like, is there different things that have to happen so that you can give this design to somebody and say, mass produce, or is it something that you have to kind of imagine somebody's making these things over and over and over and over,
Yeah. So the answer is no, I haven't done that before. But glass is an interesting material, it's a handmade material. There are no machines, making the glasses that you are drinking out of. Right. So the vision of how things work with glass and how they're built and how they go together was really a strength. And again, kind of what I went back to before is this is, totally in my wheelhouse in order to think of a glass object to be made. And there are different techniques that are used in mass production, but at the same time, it's glass. So I think that really gave, me an edge as far as designing this product in particular. And yeah, I mean, manufacturing is a new thing, but we're ready for it. We've manufactured, our first run of 100 that we have been, sending out to test and for people to try, for influencers to show the world. So we're ready. We feel good about it. And it was a process, but we got there, and we got there before launching, which was our goal.
That's cool. Where in this timeline does just the idea of crowdfunding or a Kickstarter or any of that sort of come into play to launch this? Did you have it from day one, or was it something like, we should try this?
I think it was in our mind from day one. Kickstarter has always been like a fun, exciting thing to look at and to think about. But we really saw the value in launching on Kickstarter by, building a community of excited people that, are not necessarily just looking for the product right now, but believe in the story and believe in our origin, and believe in us as people. And, it was just an attractive way to go to market, as far as testing the market, getting some funds in order to manufacture the first run. It just seemed like a no-brainer, especially for the product itself. It's a product that we can see can get some excitement. And everybody loves coffee. So we thought that there was a large market, especially on Kickstarter, that would help support us.
Now, in this scenario, and I usually recommend like my project creators or my clients, like really think about this sort of buyer persona. And it sounds like you're sort of laying it out a little bit in terms of who would be into this product. It's not, coffee drinkers could be, it's basically everybody, right? It could be, basically it's a gigantic audience, but you have that sort of environmental play in here as well in terms of, cutting down waste and all that sort of narrative as well. Were you thinking about a buyer persona as you're laying out your Kickstarter page? And hey, it's not just coffee drinkers, it's a coffee drinker who's this person. Were you thinking about that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. We really narrowed our customer into, who are the people that are going to buy this product, and, people that buy their own beans and grind at home, is really like our target. And also, small living, green living, where, you don't have to keep those paper filters in stock. Those were definitely two of like our main roads to explore. And we're definitely seeing that pay off, and a lot of people are excited about the no paper use. And it can be a specialty product, and I know it will start as a specialty product, but also we see this, in anybody's kitchen that ever makes coffee. You don't always need a big old pot of your Mr. Coffee Maker. Right. Sometimes you want that one cup in the afternoon to get you through. Pure Over is definitely going to be that for you.
And did you have, for you particularly, because since you're making the thing in your mind and designing it, did you have that persona in your mind a little bit first, or did the persona come after you're holding something in your hands and going, this is the person who would be into this?
I think a little bit of both. Like I said before, we really tried to build a business before going on Kickstarter. Yeah. Have a great team around me. And we definitely, thought about that a lot in developing our marketing, and developing our audience, who are we going to advertise to? So yes, and, kind of both. We realized that a lot of these things start out as specialty, but then kind of, spread out into other markets and people that are not necessarily as specialty. But yeah, it was definitely intentional. And we put a lot of work into our marketing plan and, figuring out who was going to actually be interested in this product.
Cool. That's a good pivot a little bit. So let's talk a little bit around, so now you've got everything kind of built. When do you know that you're actually ready to launch the campaign? So you've got good assets, you've got the buyer personas, you've got the prototypes or whatever, how do you know you're ready to hit that launch button?
Yeah, we've gone through a hell of a year, obviously. Yeah. I think we pushed back our launch maybe like 8 times, especially because of COVID. We really hit a wall as far as getting our samples in and our manufacturing done. Obviously it was just a weird time, and we kind of not paused, but we started pushing things back a little bit. I don't, as far as launching a product, like there's never a good time, but there's always a good time, and you can never be too prepared, but there's always going to be things that you wish you could have done. So we were really taking our time. We didn't want to rush anything. Like I said, this wasn't my full-time job. It's becoming my full-time job. Like that. But we really were just taking our time and making sure that when we were launching, we were super comfortable with what we had. And, after things, started calming down on our manufacturing side, we started getting, our samples in like we planned, and everything was looking good. We set that date basically to try to hit some Christmas shipping, which we're aiming to do. But the last few months were definitely like, super, super busy, working till 2, 3 a.m. to get everything ready. We started off, planning our launch. That was a huge pre-launch plan, which was super important to our success. As soon as we thought we had everything in line, we started executing that pre-launch plan. That was about 2 months after we started executing. We knew we were going to launch. So that's kind of when our hard date landed. As soon as we started, doing our influencer reach out and sending products to people, getting press lined up. Once we were kind of firing on all cylinders there, we knew we had a concrete date that we needed to land on.
That's cool. Well, we've kind of buried the lead here a little bit. We haven't even talked about the actual Kickstarter in terms of numbers. So hopefully people are still hanging in with us. But as of the day we're talking, of about 18 days to go, over $200,000, a ton of backers, almost 3,000 backers. So a lot of orders, which I think, to me, the amount of money is nice, but the amount of backers is to get all those early adopters, and those are the people talking about it. What's been the thing that's, to this point, has stood out the most, in the back end of the dashboard or whatever it is, where you're like, wow, we're big in Japan or Singapore? Has there been something that you were like, I did not expect this at all?
International interest was definitely, we know that, the international scene has a lot of coffee fanatics, a lot of cool gear made everywhere. But I guess we didn't realize like how much interest from international customers that we would get. And so that was definitely like a nice thing to see, that this is not just a product that, Americans would want to buy. Yeah. But, other than that, I think we kind of knew that there was a market for this. This is obviously a big test, and it confirms our thoughts. But, coffee making is such a fun, versatile way. I have a few different coffee makers that I use. Everybody seems to have, 2 or 3 options for the specific time. So that was really cool to see that, people are buying multiple too. I see a lot of 2 and 5s that people are going to buy for gifts. Yeah. I use 2 every morning. I make me and my wife a cup of coffee every morning with 2 pour overs. So yeah, I think just the support from the international side and just the buying multiple units was nice to see.
That's cool. Now, you kind of mentioned this a little bit too, and I think this is specifically for project creators. If there was one thing that you could do differently, what would it be right now? If there was just one thing that you were like, I wish we would have done this a little bit better.
That's a good question. One thing that I wish we would do better, maybe just understanding what a Kickstarter upkeep looks like. That was kind of the unknown, like, how many, what do we have to do while the Kickstarter is running in order to keep it going? Yeah. And keeping up with your comments, keeping up with your messages is super important. Again, I've been kind of working like that for the past 10, 12 years as a glass artist, keeping up with people asking questions and whatnot. But it's definitely, it's definitely a lot, and you have to be ready to keep up with it, because people like to be responded to, and people look at that and they want to see that you're engaged and you're not just selling something without being ready to engage with people. So maybe just being prepared for, all the comments coming at you and everything would be something that I would let people know, that this is going to take up a lot of your time during the campaign. As it should. You're selling something and taking people's hard-earned money. And you should be ready to talk to them and let them know, how to alleviate any concerns or just general questions.
So with 18 days to go, what are you doing right now to just keep that momentum going, making sure that there's no big dips, just to keep that, like I said, that momentum going for the next week, 2 weeks or so?
Yeah, like we talked about a little before, I have a decent following on my artwork, and I'm definitely, dipping into my fans and letting them know that this is still available, which we've gotten a huge support from. We are, hitting press pretty hard. We've had some good press so far, and there should be some more coming out soon. We are working with a few different marketing agencies to run ads and to, be in some newsletters. And so we're kind of firing on all cylinders, just making sure that people understand that, there's only 2 weeks left. You won't be able to get these prices for the Pure Over much longer. Just getting the word out and making sure that people see it.
Okay. So campaign ends, 18 days, a couple weeks for all the money to get into bank accounts. What starts to happen on your guys' end to get these into people's hands?
Yeah, we're already going, man. We will be placing our first order soon for the first 2,500 backers, 2,500 units. And, we're working with a fulfillment partner. And we are going to, like you said, do everything we can to quickly get Pure Overs into the hands of people that bought them. And that's really our main goal right now, besides, keeping the Kickstarter going, is really just fulfilling. Kind of like I said before, I have a personal reputation, and this means everything to me to not disappoint anyone. Right. So that's what we're trying to do. We're working with a great team. We're figuring out all our right partners, and we're just trying to do this right.
So my other question then is going to be around, this is a worldwide campaign, right? We've talked about the success of it and how that being pretty great. How are you shipping glass all over the United States? How are you handling shipping and handling? Because I know that can be a slippery slope.
Totally. And, I've had a little bit of experience shipping glass for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand, how it needs to get shipped, what size boxes need to be in, if there's a shipper outside the box, which there is. So, just making sure our packaging is secure, and making sure that the way we're shipping things gives enough room to get bumped around, is really the main to worry about. And, there are going to be some things that happen as if my pieces haven't, sometimes had accidents on the way. Right. But, that's the whole thing of taking care of our customers, and we're prepared.
So what does the next, I guess, maybe not so much specifically for you, but for the company, what do you see this next year looking like, maybe even year and a half? Like, is it multiple more products? Is it just getting this one really out and just confirming that it's all working and good? But what does like the next year and a half look like?
Yeah, I think we're really going to focus on this flagship product of ours. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We want to make sure everything is in order and people are loving the product, and everything is arrived safely. And, really just want to make sure that our focus is on Pure Over. Mm-hmm. Saying that, I am a designer at heart, and I do have a lot of ideas, like I said. And so we're looking forward to, innovate further on other kitchen items and things for your home. But for now, our entire focus is on Pure Over.
Yeah. And then how about like a 5-year? I mean, are you seeing like, I'm making a bunch of coffee products, I'm making more glass products, I'm going to go back to more sculpture types. Like, do you guys have a roadmap? Like, just what do you think 5 years look like for you guys?
I'm always going to be a glass artist, blowing glass and making sculptures. I'm never going to stop doing that. It might be a little less these days and continue forward. But as far as Pure Over goes, yeah, we see ourselves as a design company that, found a really nice aesthetic in our eyes, especially with the juxtaposition of glass and ceramic. I'm definitely looking forward to bringing that aesthetic to people's kitchens, whether it, not only be coffee products or tea products, but just other functional items that we use every day that could get a little lift up on the aesthetic wise and making people's kitchens look, the same, as far as their, the gadgets that they have in their kitchen. I don't see us, experimenting much with like electronic items and whatnot. I think the idea of, manual things is cool to us, which is, why we went back to the basics brewer. That's definitely exciting to think about. But again, we want to, keep our feet on the ground and grow naturally and focus on what we've been selling to people so far.
That's awesome. I think it's a great idea, man. It really is. So if you got a minute, I'd like to pivot over to a lightning round question that has nothing to do with Kickstarters or coffee or your products or anything like that stuff. So you ready?
Yep.
All right. What have you watched on the Netflix, Hulu, any sort of streaming? What's been the latest show you watched?
Oh man, you know what I'm really ready for? We finished this a little bit ago. Is Ozark? I'm really ready for.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's intense, man. There's a couple nights there. I'm like, I gotta watch something else because I'm like on edge here. It's too much.
Yeah, totally. I like some of those stupid real estate shows. To be honest, I'm a big real estate fan. And I love looking at different houses. So those have been fun. And other than that, just. I don't watch much TV, but just the classics too. A little Always Sunny. I like watching some of the reruns of some of the classics. But yeah, I'm ready for some new Netflix series for sure.
Yeah. How about a movie? Have you seen a movie lately?
Oh man, has anybody been seeing movies lately?
Well, it's funny. I've been asking these questions like pretty consistently, and people are like, I just don't have time for movies, but then they'll say I watched this like 12 parts thing over like 12 days for hours, and I'm like, the movie's only an hour and 45 minutes. So yeah, but it is funny, man. I don't watch a lot. I used to watch a ton of movies too, but I'm like, it's all TV shows. It's the 10-parters
right now. I honestly, I don't watch many movies at all.
Yeah.
I do watch TV shows like we were talking about. But I can't even say a movie I've watched in the last few months. It seems like a weird time for movies.
I know. I agree with you. How about a book? Have you read a book lately?
I started reading Jamie Schmidt's book about entrepreneurial success. I forget exactly the title, but she is the founder of Schmidt's Naturals, which is the deodorant.
Deodorant, yeah.
Yep, and she's a genius. She's a Portland local. And, I just started getting into that and I'm excited to dig in.
How about podcasts outside of mine? I mean, I know I'm the first one on the top there, but any other podcasts you might be listening to?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of, Guy Raz's How I Built This is kind of my go-to.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's a lot of music and whatnot.
Oh, how about latest album or song you're enjoying?
Yeah, let's see, man. Let's see what I've been listening to. I listen to a lot of hip hop. A lot the new Run the Jewels is great.
Oh yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah, I've also found this new artist. He's not a new artist, Masigo, who is an R&B and saxophone player, which is really awesome. And a lot of the classics. I like a lot of Kendrick. I like a lot of J-Rock and
nice.
A lot of that vibe.
Very cool. How about is there a blog you go to or any sort of online material? Like, hey, I always go to this channel to get info on marketing or just to stay up in this world. Is there any resources you go to?
I'm kind of all over the place, to be honest. There's a lot of focusing on what we're doing right now. But I do try to take it in as much as I can. I don't know if there's a specific one that I can spit off the top of my head. But yeah, I'm trying to just take everything I can in right now.
Awesome. Well, I think we did a good job here. Where should we send people if they want more information outside of the Kickstarter? I'll have the links to that, but maybe if they want to dive into your world or see some of your other artwork, where should we send people?
Yeah. So our website is pureover.com, pureover.com. It's kind of a little bit what's on the Kickstarter. If you want to check out some of my work, it's just etairahmil.com. Try to spell that right off the bat. ETAIRAHMIL.com. I'm sure you can find it on the same post as the podcast. That we have some cool press to read about that you can also find up on our Instagram, which is Pure Over Coffee. Check it out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day and being flexible today. We had to do a little bit of moving around today for the old dentist appointment for myself, but I appreciate you taking out of it. Yeah, you got to keep these teeth clean, right? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, that's super important. But man, awesome campaign, awesome product, great design. I love these campaigns that are simple. That it's not a bunch of bebopping and lights flashing and there's nothing. I don't need my phone. I don't need my iPhone with it, right? I don't think it syncs. There's no syncing to devices, right?
No syncing. No, the glass is not syncing. Maybe
no
we can
syncing.
find a way. I don't know. It's not.
No, I don't need that. No, I'm too synced. I got enough syncing going on. Let's just go back to some basics. So I think you guys have really struck a really good chord here with that. So again, great job on the campaign, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do over the next 18 days.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your time.
All right. Bye-bye.